Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up? MCR family. Another weekly edition of the show live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all the like, all that fun stuff. You guys know how to support the show. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network and Cash App, Trending Now Network, all that fun stuff. I'm Matthew Hunter. I think it's been a week since we did a show. For the life of me, can't remember if there's any real boxing fights that happened this weekend. There was a UFC fight that was a absolute fucking banger. I know Gary didn't watch it, so I'll probably save my thoughts on that main event at the very end of the show for like the two of you that actually care about MMA and UFC content. But we do have a lot of news to get to on today's show. A lot of negotiation, debate, and fodder, I guess. It's oh god, Fury and Joshua, they're back in the news. Anytime we have heavyweights, those three heavyweights, or any combination of those three heavyweights, Wilder, Joshua, and Fury, we're in just for a shit show in terms of the news cycle. But without further ado, let me get to my co-host over in Texas, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you?
I'm good. First, I didn't watch the UFC, but did you watch the Knicks blow out the Celtics by 30?
Oh, I didn't.
That was comical. I posted a screenshot when it was 101-64 in the fourth quarter. The funniest thing on the internet all day. And then Brady and Breeze, did you watch that? I can't stand Brady. He played like trash until the last 5 minutes of the game. They were lucky. And if you're going to debate with me, you need to bring facts, okay?
Brady is the GOAT. Better than Joe Montana. Better than Troy Aikman. Better than Steve Young.
I mean, Drew Brees would be the next in line. Or Rodgers. Like, I would say those are the three best, Rodgers, Brees, and I mean ever. Like, statistically, the stats bear that out.
What's I think I wish I can play like GIFs on the show. I play the Kobe GIF of like how many rings? How many rings is it? That's all that matters.
So playing for the best team is what matters? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So if I throw for 4,000 yards on a good team and you throw for 4,000 yards on a bad team, you're better than me? I don't really follow that.
If I actually win the shit, yeah. And you don't.
So if I play with players better than you have,
yep,
then I'm better than you?
Yep.
I don't really follow that line. I don't follow that line of reasoning. Right.
Yep.
So Mark Madsen,
you just admitted if the stats are equal, okay, then of course it goes to accomplishments now.
Okay.
You're hypothetical. In your hypothetical, stats were equal. Then yes, accomplishments. Who did you beat? How did you beat them? What game was it? Absolutely matters. Yes. Okay. Unfortunately, it does.
As a tiebreaker, not okay. Fine. If you want to say that's my tiebreaker and my standard, I can live with that. But it doesn't create a tie. Like Mark Madsen won 3 championships with the Lakers, at least 2. Was he on all 3 teams? He might have been. So then, but that theory, he's better than the Greek Freak. I mean, you understand how silly that is, right?
Yes, but you do understand, like, that's not the actual juxtaposition to use, right? You have to, like, juxtapose the best player on that Lakers team with the best player on the Bucks team, which would be the Greek Freak, is what you're talking about, right? Like, that would be the juxtaposition.
Well,
you don't compare the best player on a shitty team, so to speak, right? Because the Bucks aren't shitty, but just for this argument, right? With the worst player on the best team. That makes no sense. Because you're comparing greats, right? You're not comparing the bench players with a great. You're comparing great players with great players. Like, we're not going to play dumb and obtuse here. And this goes into the AJ Fury and all these other debates that you and Rob have been having. Okay? There's no need to be playing dumb here. Okay? Like, we know what we're having. We can go past a lot of the nuance because we know what the nuance is. We don't need to, again, play dumb and be obtuse.
So okay? I need intellectual consistency. Like, I need that. If I don't have that, I don't have anything.
Accomplishments mean more than anything in sports.
Well,
okay. So then after that, of course, skills, ability, talent, those all come into play. But like, accomplishments means a lot.
Sure. And football is the ultimate team sport, right? Like, and it's basically predicated around the best coaching, right? Like, if you have a horrible coach, you're not going to win anything, right? Like Brady got to play, and Breeze got to play with Sean Payton, who's the next best coach in the league, right? Kobe, Shaq, and Shaq won one. He had Pat Riley, but none of those guys and Jordan, none of them won any rings until they got with Phil Jackson, right? Like Brady didn't win any Super Bowls without Belichick.
Correct take right here.
Not watching Gladiator. That's out. Never going to happen. Literally, never going to happen. It's a moral position. It's a principle at this point.
I think Gary is more open to communism than watching Gladiator.
It's not even like I'm sure it's a great movie, but the reaction that I get when I say I've never seen it is like I've committed some crime worse than murder. It's like, you've never seen Gladiator?
You should still see Gladiator. It's a good movie.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna watch it.
Why? Oh my god. Anyways, Jay in the chat saying I was talking shit about Holloway on Twitter on Saturday. He's one of the fighters on the UFC main event. By the way, all my tweets about that fight on Saturday was when I had not watched the fight. Just want to I saw all the reaction on Twitter. I was like, I'm going to be an asshole on Twitter. So that's what happened. Santiago saying, don't forget the quality of the accomplishments. Not all accomplishments are created equal. Just look at Broner being a 4-division champion. Absolutely. Right. That's a good, especially in boxing, right? Take it back to boxing, right? Like, not all champions are the same. Not all mandatories are the same. Like, I always say that, like, not all champions are created equal.
Like Kobe's 5 rings all came in the post-Jordan era. So they're kind of not as... Look, they're 5 rings are 5 rings. But none of them came against Jordan.
For us that did not live in the Jordan era, what do you mean by it? Like, add the context to that. When you say it happened post-Jordan era, so they don't mean as much, is basically what you said.
All right.
What do you mean by that? Because like the way that the style of the game changed, like that's what for us young heads.
The style of the game didn't change that much, right? It changed with I would call it the Steph Curry era, which is weird because he's not the best player of the era, but the Warrior team kind of changed the way the game is played. It's all analytics now. It's 3-pointers, layups, and free throws, right? Like the mid-range game, outside of a few players, disappeared, right? Kobe was a mid-range player for the most part. I know he shot threes. I know he take the ball to the hoop, but he was most of his points came in the mid-range, just like Michael, right? Mm-hmm. So the game didn't change that much. The Michael Jordan era, Michael Jordan won every championship, right? Karl Malone got none. Charles Barkley got none. Olajuwon got 2 the 2 years Jordan was gone, right? Like, there was no other window. No one else won a championship because...
Well, that's not absolutely true. Jordan didn't win like a bunch of, like when he was like a rookie in the first years.
When he got with Phil Jackson he won 6 in 8 years, and the 2 years he didn't win was the 2 years he was retired, right? So...
excluding the years that he was playing, he just didn't have Phil Jackson as a coach. Which
let's say that.
Was 5 years? He had 5 seasons without Phil Jackson in the beginning?
Yeah, probably. Doug Collins, and I forget if anyone else was there. 5 years?
About 5 years? Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. Seems about right.
Kobe won his first championship in his, 3rd year? Because rookie year, he missed the shot in the playoffs, right?
Chucking up air balls.
Yeah, man.
Chris Tucker said he was sitting in his pool catching Kobe's air ball. Like, Kobe shooting. And Shaq grabbed him and said, "Don't you worry. A couple of years now, you're going to be making those shots. Just keep taking them." And that turned out to be true.
I think you. Anyways, let's get back to boxing, Gary. You want to talk about boxing?
Yeah.
Okay. And talk about the great fight that's never going to happen. I'm just kidding. It's probably going to happen now, I think. I don't know. I'm still conflicted. Fury Joshua. Eddie Hearns says deal's done. Contract's not signed. Waiting on venue and broadcasting rights. Bob Arum is stating that the deal is like 95% done. And I believe I have one more thing about it. The fight is most likely not going to be in the UK due to just obvious money. Both fighters can make more money from giant site fees, basically, from the Middle East that is potentially open, regardless of what happens with COVID, potentially. Gary, I was not too long ago pretty pessimistic about this fight happening for a variety of reasons. One of them being obviously the Usyk mandatory, which we can get into, the Wilder arbitration, which we can get into slightly as well. Both of those seem to not be as much issues, at least in regards to these two parties, right? Like in regards to the Fury camp and the AJ camp, both camps seem to be of the mindset that those obstacles are minor obstacles to this fight materializing first half of this year, most likely. Gary, your thoughts on this entire story and scenario?
Okay. I used to have a manager, right? And if I said, can I get this client some IPO? Can I get this client some of this? And he'd be like, potentially. All right. I feel like that's what Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum are doing here. It's a done deal, potentially, right? Like, it's a done deal, but the contract isn't signed. But that means it's not a done deal. Like, I mean, that is like saying it's raining and it's not raining. Well, it can't be both. It's got to only be one or the other. Like, it's Wednesday and it's not Wednesday. Well, is it Wednesday or not, right? The deal is done, but there's no contract signed. It means there's no deal, right? Maybe there's a verbal agreement, but that's not a deal, right? That's not a contract. That's not a signed contract. And then Bob Arum saying it's 95% done. If every fight was 95% done, happened, you know how many fights we would have had? Like, to me, that's wishful thinking. And maybe they do get done. Maybe they get done in the next few days and they're officially signed, sealed, and delivered. We'll get to the obstacles, but I still think there are obstacles in the way. So until the deal is 100% done, in my personal opinion, it's 0% done.
I largely agree with that sentiment, especially with I even like the Battle Left Hook article, because the way they framed it was like the venue and broadcasting rights weren't big hindrances to the contract being done. I'm like, wait. Like, those are massive issues. Both fighters aren't under the same broadcasting umbrella. They both have to agree and sign off on venue, and then they have to agree on the monetary split based off that venue for a variety of things like concessions and things of that order. So those aren't small hindrances towards a contract. So I definitely agree with the sentiment that the whole deal is done when contract's not signed and you have major aspects like venue and broadcasting rights to be determined. Therefore, the contract and deal is to be determined, in my opinion. However, in terms of the obstacles, maybe we can get into that now. I still don't, I shouldn't say still. I now at this point do not think the Wilder arbitration and the Usyk mandatory are going to be the major obstacles for this fight. I think it's going to be stuff like the venue. Like, I know that at this point in time, from all articles I've seen, they kind of just either ignored or, lazily contextualize the COVID issue when it comes to international travel and the like. But these are significant issues. And even though the UFC can do it, it doesn't mean that Matchroom can do it at this point in time. Okay? So I think the venue, if I'm being honest, if I have to predict what the biggest hurdle or obstacle is that. Not Usyk, not Wilder. I think both parties are completely okay with taking whatever penalty they have to do to get over those obstacles, meaning Wilder and Usyk. Whether it means vacating, whether it means paying a fine or something to Wilder, I think they will bite the bullet to take the bigger pot here, the bigger monetary bag with the Fury and Joshua fight. Gary, I know you have different thoughts because
I don't necessarily have different thoughts. I just, it's like when there's a murder case and everyone has some opinion. Oh, he's guilty, he's innocent. Like, well, let's let the facts come out and let's see where it goes where it may, right? I don't know. Like, let the facts come out, right? Are they hindrances? They're hindrances. They're hurdles. They're obstacles. Are they going to ultimately stop the fight? I don't know. I don't know. Look, they're going to have to.
We know you don't know, Gary, but you have to predict here. Like, come on.
No, my prediction, and I'll get to the reason why. My prediction is that Wilder will fight Fury and Usyk will fight Joshua. Why? I think it's going to be too complicated to get that done immediately overseas, so they'll just take fights on the side in the interim. And the fights on the side, I feel, have already been predestined, so to speak. Like Wilder's Fury's contractually obligated to fight Wilder. We'll get into the expiration of the contract and how I think that would not hold up in court because there's a pandemic that made the fight impossible. And Usyk has been the mandatory for over a year now to fight Joshua. So if he's not fighting Fury, which I think that fight's going to get held up for a number of reasons, he's got to fight. AJ's got to fight Usyk. So I'm not ruling it out of the possibility. My gut feeling says no. That fight, Fury and AJ, is not going to happen next for either guy. Both guys will take some other fight before we get to that fight.
Now, I at this point predict that we will get Fury Joshua. And the reasons why is that, while this might be a complex contract and fight to make for a variety of reasons, it has potentially hundreds of millions of reasons why it will be made. There's a lot of dollars that will be made that, will be made in this fight. So issues like the Wilder arbitration, I think will get handled. Even though I largely agree with your sentiment, and you've, I think, talked about this before on the show on why Wilder has a good case to make on why that expiration of the contract is void in a sense. But from what I remember reading on the contract, there's only like a monetary fine, so to speak, if they were to avoid the rematch. So I can see Fury just paying that off. And for Usyk, we already have Frank Warren out there talking about him fighting Joe Joyce for an interim WBO title. I see that being a way to appease a lot of parties when it comes to the Usyk mandatory situation. Usyk wants a title shot. He still wants the AJ fight. This is a way of kind of doing both. The Joyce fight, at this point, because of the Dubois win, is a relevant heavyweight fight, and it's a fight that Usyk probably will win and thinks he will win, so he's confident going into. Therefore, I think he's be more accepting to taking the fight, and obviously heading into an AJ fight after that, or Fury fight if Fury beats AJ. And even if that's not the case, I think AJ will be okay with vacating the belt because they can just market the Fury fight as this is the guy. It's the lineal championship, just like they did with Fury and Wilder in a way, right? Like this is for the guy in the spot in the division. Nothing else matters because that's the lineal championship. They can do that, and plus we know that like it is the fight. Like there's no other way you can splice it right now. Like that is the fight for the undisputed championship, regardless if you have one sanctioning body attached to it or not. Just like we know Teofimo Lopez is the guy at 135, even though Devin Haney has a championship belt around his waist. It doesn't matter. We know who the guy is, regardless of the sanctioning body bullshit. So that's why the Usyk situation, I don't think, is the big factor. Maybe the Wilder situation is, because I don't know the particulars of that contract, of course. So I can't speak to the actual ramifications of what paths could be taken there. But regardless, I think that Fury Joshua is such a big fight at this time. It seems like both camps want it. And this statement I think you said on another show, when both fighters want the fight, it kind of gets made. It's especially at this level when they have that much clout and power in the industry. If they want it, it's really hard to push against them, even if you're a sanctioned body, a promoter, or a network. So that's why I fall down here with this fight's happening. Both parties seem like they want it. Both parties seem like they're already engaged in advanced talks. Let's put it that way. I think it's happening at least first half this year. Gary, any other thoughts?
Again, my gut is that it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. Look, at this point, because it's only promoters going out there and stating, hey, man, this thing's happening, even though it's not signed, sealed, and delivered, I understand being hesitant or pessimistic about, or even cynical of this fight happening. Absolutely.
If this happens, first, I'm not going to say it's a duck by Fury because Fury's fought Wilder twice already, but be a man, honor your contract. Wilder didn't have to fight you, especially the first time, and he did. Okay, he gave you a shot twice at his title. And that deal was, if you win, I get a shot. be a man of your word, grab your balls, and fight Wilder again. Okay? It was contractually obligated. Be a man and do the right thing. As far as the other side, like, if AJ wants to vacate his belt, it's perfectly entitled to vacate his belt. I said Canelo should vacate all his belts. Why would you bother paying the fees? I don't need the belt, right? But if he does that, it's a duck, right? Why is it a duck? Because he voluntarily was eager to fight Gropey McGropester. What's his name?
A much better fighter.
What's Pulev the molester, right? He was happy to fight Pulev. He couldn't talk him out of that fight, right? He had two mandatories. One, he's jumping out of his skin to take. The other's like, I ain't touching that with a 10-foot rope. Well, why is that? Eddie Hearns said after Usyk's fight against Chaz Witherspoon, I asked him, can he beat anyone in the heavyweight division? Eddie Hearns said, anybody. Oh, anybody. So Eddie Hearns knows AJ can't win that fight, and that's going to spoil Eddie Hearns' big payday. So that's why that fight's not getting made. It's clear as day. It's a duck. He known for a year that he's had to fight, over a year, 14, 15 months, that he had to fight Usyk. He ain't going to do it. Well, I guess he won the title from Ruiz back in December of 2019. So he's known since that day who he has to fight next, who he has to fight. He ain't going to do it because he can't win the fight, right? If he was as confident with Usyk as he was with Pulev, the fight would be done by now. But he knows he can't. And look, I'm not saying he knows he can't win. Eddie Hearn knows he can't win that fight. I asked Eddie Hearn, can he beat anyone in the heavyweight division? He said anyone. Would AJ be anyone?
Are you asking me?
Well, it's kind of like, it's kind of rhetorical. Like, yes, AJ is anyone.
Okay, Gary. This is what I talked about when I said earlier in the show. Like, let's not be obtuse here about nuance and context. Like, let's not do that here. We know that when AJ Pulev happened, there was no way that AJ Usyk could happen instead. Why? Because Usyk, who was AJ's stablemate at the time, fought his other stablemate, Derek Chisora, instead. Okay? So let's not act like AJ chose Pulev over Usyk. That's just ahistorical and a lie. It's just not true. It's not. Okay? Secondly, okay.
I got to go back and check the time frame of that. Didn't he take the Usyk fight because AJ was taking the Pulev fight instead? I think
wait, can you rephrase that? Sorry, with the names, I didn't know if you were. I didn't know who you're talking about and who's fighting who.
Didn't Usyk take the Chisora fight after AJ had taken the?
No, because remember both fights were scheduled pre-COVID, and then COVID happened. They were pushed back multiple times. So all those fights were supposed to.
I don't remember, but I'll take your word for it.
No, they were.
Okay.
Usyk Chisora for sure was supposed to happen in March. I believe Joshua Pulev was supposed to happen in June, right?
You might be right about that. That sounds about right.
Though I think the June date was even a pushback as well. I want to say it was scheduled before that, and it had to be pushed back to June, and then they pushed it back again.
Yeah.
So, and then on top of that, the added context of COVID. Okay, like that's what I'm talking about. Let's not be obtuse here. Okay, about last year, AJ knew all year he had to fight Usyk. Man, they had no idea all year if they were going to fight. Okay,
Usyk fought the UK though. Like, Usyk can clearly come to the UK
and he fought a top 15 borderline heavyweight.
I beat him handily, and he took care of business.
He did not beat him handily. He did not beat him handily.
I was sticking with handily.
No.
Handily is kind of a subjective.
Did he win most of the rounds? You have to win a boxing fight, most likely. So yes. Okay. So again, like those are major like contexts to this situation that we can't just avoid and act like AJ fought Pulev instead of Usyk. That's not how it worked. That's not how it works. Okay. Now, there's no way, Gary, that we can state that AJ fighting Fury is ducking Usyk. Fury is the guy in the division right now. Okay, the way he trashed Wilder in that rematch was amazing. And on top of it, let's be honest. Come on, put the bias aside here, Gary. Fury and Usyk fight very similar, don't they? Very
I
general
mean,
style. Very general style, but yes, they fight.
sure. Okay. Yeah.
Meanwhile, one of them is 6'2", maybe,
Maybe. I don't even think he's 6. Hey, list him at 6'2". I think that's generous.
and like 210 pounds.
217 is last fight.
While the other one is 6'9" and 250, let's say 260, give or take.
Depends on how motivated he is, but sure, yeah.
And on top of it, that big, on top of it, that bigger opponent, that longer opponent, is the better opponent. More established guy in the division. It's not a duck. It can't be a duck. On all the check marks to like point out if it's a duck or not, every single one it says nope, not a duck. Every single category. There's no way you can say that it's a duck.
Let me explain why it's duck, right? And I get the argument that Fury is a better heavyweight. When I rank my heavyweights, I rank Fury as number 1. So, fine. If you can't beat either guy and you're obligated to fight one guy, right? Because do we agree? You think AJ can beat Usyk? Okay, let's say you picked Usyk to win.
And I think he can beat AJ. I mean, it can't beat Fury.
I see a path to victory to beat Usyk. He knocks him out. I don't see how he beats AJ, right? Because he can't box him from the outside. He's not good enough and athletic enough. He's still kind of mechanical. He can't get on the inside consistently. I don't see how he beats Fury. There's a path to victory against Usyk, right? He's the bigger, stronger guy. He's obviously the bigger puncher. He could knock Usyk out. And I've said Usyk will get knocked out at some point if he doesn't figure out how to stop people, right?
Like I was about, like I said, I don't pick him to beat Fury, but he still can beat Fury.
That's tough.
He has less technical flaws than a Wilder, right? Like with AJ and Fury, you would have to perfect a game plan for AJ. He would have to get on the inside, have to go to the body, have to use that uppercut. Like there were certain things that he would have to do continually in order to beat Fury. So it's not like he can't beat Fury, okay? So he can.
If he beats Fury, it's like an A-Rod home run. It's an unforced error, right? It means Fury made a mistake and AJ capitalized. And I'm not... A-Rod is one of the best players of all time. He was a mistake hitter. If you made a mistake, A-Rod put it in the second deck, right? If you make a mistake, if Fury makes a mistake, which he can, he almost got stopped by Otto Vaylene, right? So look, AJ can make... Fury can make a mistake, but I'm saying if AJ wins, it's Fury made an unforced error.
Yeah, but that shit happens.
No, absolutely.
And AJ's a top 3 heavyweight. I don't know why you're shaking your head at that. Yeah,
because I would say Wilder beats him and Usyk beats him.
Yeah, but Usyk barely got by a top 15 guy. He hasn't shown us it yet. You know what I mean? Like until you show me you're a top 3 guy, dude, you're not a top 3 guy.
Do you think? All right, AJ's got a ton of wins. So I was gonna say, Usyk struggled with Chisora the way that AJ struggled with Parker, but AJ's got a ton of other wins against top.
And also, guys. AJ did not struggle with Parker the way that Usyk struggled with Chisora. Not even close. Okay, first off, one was just a good fight and one wasn't. In terms of like entertainment value. And like Chisora landed shots. Like Parker just like smothered Joshua.
I scored some rounds for that fight. I think I had an 8-4. The judges had it wide like 10-2 and 11-1. I scored some rounds, but it was terrible, that fight. Right? Like that Parker was awful.
Well, again, it was one of those fights where like the ref ruined it because if Parker could have been allowed to work on the inside, it would have been a different fight. And not saying that AJ would have lost. I think AJ still would have won, but he would have been allowed to work on the inside as well. Like they're just bad fight. But digressing. Back to your point about AJ ducking Usyk to fight Fury. I just think categorically that's not true. Like I forget where your points were, Gary, but I have yet to hear an argument that makes sense.
I think I got sidetracked, right?
It happens.
If he can't beat either guy, he's going to take the big money fight. Right? Now he's obligated to fight Usyk, but he's not going to take that fight because he can't win it. So again, if I'm going to lose 2 fights, I might as well lose the one for bigger money. Much bigger money.
That's only a duck when the bigger money fight isn't the better fight.
Better?
No, it is the better fight. Fury is the better heavyweight.
Of course it is.
More established heavyweight. Fury beats Usyk. Like, let's just be honest here. Okay? Fury is the number 1 heavyweight. It's the consensus. Okay? So it is not only just the bigger money fight, it is the better fight. It's only a duck because you're right in that dynamic when you just go for the bigger fight instead of the better fight. But it's both here. Like Fury is the bigger and better fight. If this was like, let's say, you might like this one, okay? You might like this one. I don't know. Teofimo Lopez chooses to face Ryan Garcia instead of Gervonta Davis. Okay. That would be ducking Gervonta Davis, if you want to call it that. Or Devin Haney. Or Hector Tenahara, let's say. Right? Because Ryan Garcia is clearly not the better guy out of all that bunch. He might be, but he's not clearly the better guy, but he's the bigger money fight than all of them. Right? So it would be clearly just going for the big money. Right? It's not really going for the hardest test, going for the big money fight. Right? That's not the case here, because Fury is the guy. Am I wrong?
I don't love that analogy. I get what you're saying. I don't love that analogy, right? Because
what do you want? Okay, let me think of an Ortiz analogy. Okay. What? All right, if Ortiz had two options on the table, two contracts presented to him, one's Terrence Crawford, one's Earl Spence. He takes the Earl Spence fight. Is he ducking Crawford?
No.
Why? Crawford's the better fighter, isn't he?
He's not obligated to fight Crawford. Crawford. I mean, that's who depends on. I feel. I know this AJ fan.
Isn't Ortiz like number 2 in the WBO?
Number 2, right? So let's say Porter passes up on a Crawford fight and takes a fight with someone else.
Let's say Ortiz. Let's say Ortiz is the mandatory. Let's say they call him up as a mandatory right now. Like to make it more of analogous, right? To an extent.
And that fight's makeable, right? Whatever. Well, the fight would be makeable if it's mandatory, right?
Actually, to make it a little more analogous to this situation, I guess Crawford should be the AJ in this scenario, I guess. So let's say let's say Verge Ortiz, because he's your boy too. He's the mandatory to Crawford, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crawford has now a contract on the table, pay-per-view fight, 50-50 split with Earl Spence. He takes the Spence fight. Is he ducking Ortiz? Don't you dare say it.
That's good, man. That's a good one. That's good. That's good,
right?
Man.
That's pretty good, right?
That's good. I mean, if
guys,
I'm arguing, if I'm Ortiz's lawyer, you know what I'm arguing. But if you're just
you're not Ortiz's lawyer. Gary in Dallas on MCR, and everyone in the chat. I just want everyone to mark this day in history, because Gary is stuck here, and he is like conflicted as a motherfucker, and we love it. I love throwing all of my co-hosts against their.
If he was contractually obligated to fight Ortiz, he should fight Ortiz, because that's what he's contractually obligated to. And champions have to defend their belts a certain amount of times.
It's only obligated by the sanctioning body.
But that's the belt you want. You want all the belts. If you want their belt, you have to play by their rules. But if you don't want their belt, don't play by their rules, right? Like, which I say Canelo should do, because Canelo doesn't need stupid belt.
So, Gary, you are in favor of, in this scenario, of Crawford not taking the Earl Spence fight 50-50 pay-per-view and instead facing Vergil Ortiz?
Am I personally in favor of it?
No. I mean, come on, as a boxing fan, not as a Texas fan, as a true boxing fan, like an objective person. I know you can be objective for once in your life.
Am I okay with? Is it this is what I told Fu in the chat. What I want is irrelevant to what you're contractually obligated to do. Right,
Gary, you already have been on record stating that all these champions should give up their belts.
I said Canelo should give up his belt because he doesn't need the belt, and there are others, but Canelo was the one I used as an example.
Hey, Spence, Crawford, they don't need the belts either.
Agreed. So you can give up your belt then. Like, giving up your belt, I think is fine, right? Like it could be a duck depending on such. Like Mosley had to give up his belt to fight Floyd Mayweather because Floyd Mayweather wasn't ranked in the top 15. Is that a duck? No.
So you would be okay with Crawford giving up his WBO belt to face Spence and not face Ortiz, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you consider that a duck?
Not really. No.
Yes! Yes! Okay, guys. He's not ducking the answer anymore. Thank God. He was, though. Gary, you're ducking it. You were squirming for a bit,
Again,
man.
if I was in a court of law, I would say absolutely, 100% that's a duck.
No,
What else could it be?
no. If you're in a court of law and for Ortiz,
Yeah, if I'm saying Ortiz's lawyer, right? If I'm defending Ortiz,
lawyer, you're not staying.
Yeah, no, again, I'm defending Ortiz here. That is absolutely a duck. There's no other way to look at it.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Thoughts on Gary? Since we're on this topic, let's live in the world of Fury AJ happening, right? Your thoughts on Usyk Chisora? Or not Chisora, sorry, Usyk Joyce.
120 to 108. Usyk. Easy fight to score, Jim. He couldn't get out of the way. Every time he'd move, he'd hit him with a left hand and get out of the way to a place where Joyce couldn't possibly hit him. And Joyce never picked up the pace, Jim. 120 to 108, Alexander Usyk. Easy fight to score. That was my Harold Letterman.
I think everyone knew that.
No, I don't see how the fight. I mean, again.
Gary, hold on, Gary, I just thought about it. There's going to be a time where like people will do like a Harold Letterman impression and like new fans won't get it.
I know.
Oh, that makes me sad, man. Fuck. Anyway,
there's certain people like Mark Albert in basketball and Madden in football. Like it's just like their voice is associated with that. And well, Jim. Okay, Jim. Like it's like he got some sensory processing, so like he never knows how loud his mic is. Like, well,
Jim. Fucking amazing. I'll put it this way. I'm not upset with the rematch because Joyce did look amazing against Dubois. And I don't know if he looked improved. I don't know if that's really the word I want to use for Joyce because he's like 34 years old. But I think this rematch is at a peculiar time in their respective careers, right? When they first fought in the World Series of Boxing, fucking years ago now, that exhibition, right?
13, I want to say. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, 7 years ago. Usyk was like the rising star out of the amateur system. And Joyce, while being a good amateur, had an Olympic medal, he didn't have that sort of like hardcore media attention on him like Usyk did. And Usyk trashed him. And obviously Usyk went on to have a awesome cruiserweight run, even like a Hall of Fame run, we can argue. And then he went to heavyweight. And he hasn't really had the same momentum, let's call it. Not success.
Hasn't had the chances. Hasn't had the
momentum. I think momentum is the right word. Because it's not like he's not good at heavyweight, just hasn't had the right momentum that he had at cruiserweight.
He's the best. He's the best I ever saw. There's a guy on Twitter, shout out to him, Alexander Usyk Stan. I followed him today. He liked one of my comments about Usyk. He's my new favorite guy on Twitter.
Of course.
He's got about 200 followers, so go follow Alexander Usyk Stan. There may be an underscore in there somewhere. Alexander Usyk Stan at Twitter.
Oh man. And Joe Joyce, while not having a great heavyweight run, had a great heavyweight fight in his last showing. And that, I think, shot him up, and I think people's perception, to be honest. So we now have Joe Joyce, who's had like a little bit of a meteoric win, let's call it, in the heavyweight division, with Usyk, who's been stagnating here in this rematch. It's intriguing to me. I'm still picking Usyk to win, but I'm intrigued by the stories heading into it. Because if Usyk, let's say, heads into this fight and still doesn't look the same like he did in cruiserweight, because I think we can say, Gary, that the Chisora fight and the Chaz Witherspoon fight, they didn't look like Usyk versus Breedis or Usyk versus
Michael Hunter or Usyk versus
anyone that was Agasiev, of course.
Agasiev, yeah.
It didn't have that same like wow that pound for pound quality. Let's call it. If that shows up again here, Joe Joyce, I don't know if that's going to be the definitive like guys. I don't know if the run at heavyweight's good for Usyk, but it feels like it will be. It feels like for most people, we'll be saying at a consensus that Usyk's career at heavyweight is not going the way it should be going, and he should probably be either reconsidering staying at heavyweight, or I don't know, quickly look for that cash out fight at heavyweight.
I would say that would be it, right? Because he could go back down to cruiserweight, but the money's not there. I mean, in the money he can make in one fight with one of the big three, it would take him 10 fights to do as a cruiserweight. You know what I'm saying? Like the money he can make with Fury or Wilder or AJ would take him years and years to do as a cruiserweight. So I would say going back down to cruiserweight is out, really, because it's just not. It's like if I offer you $10 million to fight Usyk or $1 million to fight Dorticos. Like I gotta fight 10 Dorticos to fight one Wilder, and I'll just fight Wilder. You know what I'm saying? Like I just like I can't go back to that, right? Not if I get the taste of these purses, right? I can't see him going back to cruiserweight. The money's not there.
I think he'll go back to cruiserweight at some point. I think after he has at least one big money fight, he'll be gone from this division.
It has to be someone there, right? And I said Gastiev's that guy. Like Gastiev's a heavyweight who just doesn't fight. Because when Gastiev fought Usyk originally, he was 24. It was really young for a big guy.
If we're being honest, he's just probably going to retire after the big money fight.
I said he was going to be heavyweight champ of the world. Like he's 24. They'll bulk him up. They'll put him on some of the good stuff. They'll put an extra 20 pounds on him. He's fundamentally skilled. He's good. Like you get a big guy who can punch, who's big, and you have those fundamentals, be good heavyweight. And he just doesn't fight. I don't know.
I think Usyk's probably going to retire after the big money fight, if I had to guess at this point. Kind of like Vajdic in a way.
Yeah.
And almost like Loma. Like I don't think Loma is long for like his career anymore. Like I think he's going to be calling it a day pretty soon. Right? I feel that energy from Loma. I feel like he's done. I feel like a lot of these like Ukrainians that came from the same school, that Loma school, they want to have earlier sort of, or I should say, short careers, so to speak. They want to maximize as much as they can in their career and get the hell out. And I appreciate that. I don't want fighters staying in until they're 45, 50 years old, like Roy Jones, getting knocked out. So hell, if you're done with it, go. Be done with it. I'm cool with that. Like I think like Bivol, he's another one that I think is going to retire pretty young. That maybe just because he has the worst management possible. Right? I mean, where's Bivol at? He's been gone.
And when I said Kathy Duba shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, I was crazy. And now we're saying she's the worst management in boxing.
When did you say that? And who called you crazy?
I felt whenever her and Lou DiBella got in, I said neither one of them should be in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Those are two of my paisans.
I definitely thought you were crazy for the Lou.
Okay.
Not for the Kathy Duva. I think Lou should get in. Lou's been around for too long, man.
He's been around for a long time, but it's not the Hall of Very Good for a long time. It's the Hall of Fame, right? Like the best fights in boxing, he's never involved in them really. Besides, no, he's not.
Hey, there are some just pretty good boxers in the Hall of Fame.
And I would argue that they should not be in the Hall. Like in baseball, Craig Biggio hit 270 till he's 45 years old. They put him in the Hall of Fame because he got 3,000 hits. It's like that is not the same thing as Ichiro Suzuki. You want to hear a crazy stat about Ichiro? In Ichiro's 10th at bat, he got a base hit to boost his average to 300. His lifetime average never went below 300 ever again. See, that's an era of dominance, right? Like Craig Biggio, are you kidding me? Just because he played forever, you put him in the Hall of Fame?
Excuse me. I like to think of Hall of Fame as like the Hall of like memorable. Like who's the most memorable people in the sport? Not that the example you just brought up would
put one in the chat if you don't know who that is.
That's not who I'm talking about. I'm thinking of like Arturo Gatti or like Ray Mancini. Like those guys aren't the greatest boxers in the world in their era. Like they were never the greatest, but they were some of the most memorable in their era. So like that's why they get in.
I would agree, but if you put Gatti in, then who else do you have to put in?
Well, I mean, Gatti's already in, so I mean,
I'm saying if Gatti's in, who else logically has to go in?
Calderon.
That's different. He was that great, or he's in the merit. If we're putting him on like kind of memorable, then Mickey Ward's got to be in there too.
Is Ward not in?
No, but that's so weird. He's there every year, at the Hall of Fame every year, like doing the ceremonies and things like that. But he's not in the Hall of Fame.
That's sad. Because like Gotti, let's be honest, is in because of
Mickey
the Gotti Ward fights, and Ward's not in. That's so sad. And they don't have like individual fights in the Boxing Hall of Fame, right?
Mm-mm.
They should do that. I don't know why they don't do that. there's a MMA Hall of Fame and a UFC Hall of Fame. They're separate, and they both have like individual fights. And I kind of like that because there are just like some fights that, regardless of like the individual fighter's merits, were amazing. And there's some fights like
Ward versus Emmanuel Augustus was a Friday Night Fights. If you guys haven't seen that, go watch it. It's probably better than the. I don't know. It's tough to say. It's as good as the Gatti fight. Like, it's incredible.
Matthew D'Souza, this can't be right. Saying Mark Wahlberg is there, but not Ward. Dude, if Mark Wahlberg playing Mickey Ward,
I didn't even really like that. I like Ward. I didn't even really like that movie. Like, I thought it was kind of dopey.
Like, it was all right.
It was okay.
It tried to be Raging Bull.
Raging Bull's a great movie.
That's what it tried to be, right? Which is, I mean, I think the best boxing movie of all time. But that's beside the point. It goes Raging Bull and then Rocky 4.
The Rockies are tough to rank, right? Because Rocky 4 is the most watchable, right? Like it transcends time the best. But Rocky 2, win. Rocky, win.
Yeah, Rocky 2
right? And then they both get knocked out. 2 is the best one. But it doesn't, like, if I show 2 to my kids, like, what are you showing me? 4 kind of holds time better. Like, we were talking about, like, NWA, which doesn't really.
Even 3 kind of, like, holds up to time better than Rocky 2, just because you have.
Like, you're like, who's better, NWA or Wu-Tang Clan, right? And you're like, well, Wu-Tang Clan's music is still viable today where NWA sounds dated, right? Like, Rocky 2 looks really dated. Rocky 3, the only thing that looks really dated is the beach scene where they're training on the beach.
No, that is golden. that is oh my God. I remember how old was I? I must have been like 7 or 8 years old, right? And we're watching all the Rocky movies with my dad, right? We got to that one. And my dad at that scene just starts belly aching. I'm like a little bit too young. I must have been like 7 or 6 actually. So I really didn't get like why it was funny. And then when I got older, I watched it again. And I'm like, I get it now. This scene's fucking hilarious. This is like pure 80s just homoeroticism to the max, man. It is so good. It's hilarious. Dude, if you really think about it, like a lot of those 80s movies, like were just that scene, like synthesized for everything. Predator is a lot of that were just camo.
Yeah.
Rocky 4 soundtrack is the best of all the films. That is true. That Rocky 4 soundtrack is fucking fire.
When he's driving the Lambo through the tunnel, there's no easy way out. And having all the flashbacks, so good.
Oh, man. Movies again.
That Lambo, which Paulie lost for him.
Dude, the worst part about the Rocky movies, like when you grow up, is when you realize that like Sylvester Stallone's like 5'7".
Yeah.
And like 180 pounds, and he was a heavyweight champion or something like that. And I was like, no, this is not okay.
Marciano was what, 5'9", 185 pounds?
Yeah, but Rocky was like not fighting in the 50s.
True.
Anyways, I think all, by the way, just to put a bow on this topic, all like modern boxing movies suck. Except for like maybe Creed. But like
Creed was really good though. Creed was I think both of them were really good. The first one was phenomenal. Yeah,
but I'm just like I just didn't care for like the Rocky story continuing. That's like it's a good movie. Just like I didn't need to see this. This didn't need to be made.
And Michael Jordan is one of those guys like he could be in a big pile of crap and the movie would still be good because he's in it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not good of an actor. Like it could be the worst script ever, right? But if he's in it, it's good.
That's true. Shout out to Michael B. Jordan. Anyways, digressing. We got through one topic so far on the show, Gary, and we're at 50 minutes.
What was the big topic, though?
I so want to do a second show today on, obviously, MLK and all that shit, all the politics of the world. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to do that tomorrow, everyone. So Trending Now Network. Tomorrow, I'll do an MLK remembrance. What else? I want to talk about a lot of anarchist and anarchist literature I've been reading that I do not agree with, but I want to talk about it and discuss it. And a book on neoliberalism that I finished reading, which was fantastic. And Gary, you need to read the one I sent you. I think the last one.
Yeah. I have it. Yeah.
Wait, what? You got it right?
No, I haven't. I have the text.
Okay, you have the text.
I haven't got the book. I got a bunch of things to read.
Did you end up reading the Angela Davis book?
I got it. It's now. I finished everything ahead of it. I just I'll probably start it either today or tomorrow. I just haven't had time to start it. Like it's the next one on my list. Like it's.
Come on, Gary. That's your homework.
It'll be like next week. It should be. It's only like 150, 200 pages. It's not long.
Yeah, super quick. And it's a quick read to like the style of it. So yeah, General Strike podcast tomorrow, guys, on our other channel. I'll be talking politics. Moving on to finish up heavyweight topics, just because we're on this topic of heavyweights. Dylan White and Alexander Povetkin rematch confirmed for March 6th, the day before my birthday. Woohoo! Which means my birthday's on a
Sunday.
On a Sunday, yeah. Nice. I rarely get like weekend birthdays. Fuck yeah.
It's like 2 out of 7.
Yeah, man. Fuck you, Gary.
Yeah, not necessarily perfectly because you could skip one because of a leap day. You get,
Don't try to humor me now. Yeah. Don't try to humor me now. Roy Molina, Cheeseman, Metcalf, and Campbell Hatton are on the card as well. I just wanted to bring up the undercard because I saw the picture of Campbell Hatton, who I swear to God was his dad, man.
Yeah.
That was terrifying how much he looked like his old man. Cannot wait to see how he looks in the ring. I hope he's good. If he's not, I'm gonna be so sad, man. I was such a big Ricky Hatton fan.
I had to read that headline like 3 times because I thought it said Campbell, Hatton.
Me
right?
too.
Luke Campbell. He just got knocked out brutally. He's fighting it. Oh, okay, I
see. Have you seen any video of him in the ring or anything like that?
Campbell Hatton?
Yeah.
No. And I think his dad was excellent. I mean, I don't love his dad like Rob did, but his dad was a really, really one of the great 140-pounders.
Yeah, I loved Ricky Hatton, man. As a kid growing up, oh my God, Ricky Hatton was one of my favorites.
Although his decision over Collazo in Boston, one of the worst decisions ever. That was so bad. That was so bogus and so bad.
Still a good fight, though.
Good fight. Really good fight. But
really
Collazo clearly won.
Yeah. He did.
He had the Mayweather fight in the making. Like that was his fight to jump up to 47. And if he won that, then he was fighting Mayweather. And he clearly didn't win. Which should have been a big sign of what's going to happen when you fight Mayweather. But people were still loving Hatton in that fight, which I didn't understand.
I share a birthday apparently with Bryan Cranston from the great Breaking Bad TV show. That's awesome. I want to watch his new show on Showtime, I think.
I was born on the same day as Larry Fitzgerald. Same day, same year.
Really?
Exact same thing. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What happened to you?
He's done a lot more in his 37 years than I've done in mine.
Not to Larry Fitzgerald, though. Super nice guy. I met him a couple times. Very nice guy. Anyways, moving on. I think that's it for heavyweight topics. Yes. Anyways, moving on. Canelo Alvarez seems to still be in talks with Matchroom / DAZN for his next couple fights. Obviously, Billy Joe Saunders being involved, Ivani Yerdum, all names the like in terms of what could be next for Canelo Alvarez with this deal. Gary, do you think this deal gets finalized soon, or does it fall apart for some reason?
It's not because Canelo wants to take his mandatory, and he wants to fight 3 times this year. And heel Trump, don't negotiate too much, okay? Because then you're just not worth the time. Sign the contract, get the purse of a lifetime, get knocked out, go into retirement with your millions. That's it. That's it. Don't read the contract. Don't get too picky here. Don't. Because you could lose it. Right? No one is clamoring for an Ealdrum fight, right? You're lucky that Canelo is deciding to fight 3 times this year. So, consider yourself lucky. Again, you should be paid well because Canelo's going to knock you out. That could damage you. So you deserve to get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't negotiate too hard. That's my advice to you. Take the career high purse, get knocked out, and go on.
I like this question from Jay in the chat, and I'll extend it to you as well, Gary, saying, Matt, If you could plan out Canelo's year, who do you fight? Well, he has to get his mandatory out of the way unless he wants to give the belt. But I'll give two different answers, because in the hypothetical of like, if I can pick, I'm the sole arbiter of boxing, right? I'm okay with the Billy Joe Saunders fight first, and then Caleb Plant, and then Dave Benavidez. That's who I would want him to fight next this year. What's likely, what's realistic, if you have to work within the parameters of like reality, I guess, which sucks. Yerdam, of course, because that's mandatory. Billy Joe Saunders. So the last fight's up for grabs. Who could that be? I'll be sadistic as fuck. Triple G in the trilogy fight. Let's knock him out. Let's get this shit over with. Let's retire this motherfucker and his fans and move on. Gary?
See, I get it. Let's say Yildirim fight has to happen. So then what other two fights would I make? Part of me wants to see him fight Charlo, but I don't think Charlo will win that fight anymore. So, like, I'd rather just have Charlo fight at 160. So the two fights I'd want to see would be Plant and Benavidez. What do I think we're going to see? I think we're going to see Yildirim, Billy Joe, and then Caleb Plant. He keeps mentioning Caleb Plant's name. If Canelo wants to fight you, it's going to happen. So I think it will happen. I think it'll be the third fight of the year. He keeps saying Caleb Plant's name. So I think it happens.
It's very likely. I mean, there's a reason why that fight almost happened in December of last year. That was almost the Callum Smith fight. So we were very close. Instead of getting Canelo, Callum Smith on pay-per-view in DAZN, we almost got Canelo versus Caleb Plant on Fox pay-per-view. So
and Benavidez would be such a great fight for Cinco de Mayo. Like, that'd be such a great fight to make. Like that. Yeah.
So good. Jay in the chat is bringing up Zerto Ramirez. Ramirez moved up to 175, and he called out Marcus Brown. And I think that fight is close to being made, by the way. So that's not going to happen. Plus, Canelo said he's not going back up to 175, which I don't blame him, because he's like 5'8". He should not be fighting on 175. Like, I am taller and have more reach than Canelo.
Canelo's in the driver's seat. He picks his weight class and he picks the term. And if you want to make a career high person, you meet his terms. If not, we'll move on. Right? Like, I mean, that's basically how he's basically in this driver's seat that Mike Tyson was in the 80s and 90s. He's in the seat that Floyd Mayweather was in. Like, it's his era. Like, if you want to fight me, you'll get a career high purse. Here are the terms. If you don't want to do it, okay, I'll pick someone else.
Marcus Brown. Rubisky reminding us, Marcus Brown, the woman beater. Yes. Multiple times.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. There was a bunch, right? Like, that was,
Yeah.
Speaking of women beaters, you want to get to Kovalev?
That's like way deep in the show.
All right.
Fuck, no, we can take right. Fuck yeah. No, hold on. Let me finish that. Jay, bring up Andrade. I think I have an Andrade topic, so we're gonna get to Andrade later. If not, too bad. Liam Williams is probably gonna fight him. Let's be honest. But Sergey Kovalev, this fucking piece of shit, test positive for a synthetic testosterone. At the point of this article, which was on Thursday, the fight was still potentially happening. The fight's been called off now. I think that happened either today or yesterday. The best part was this. McGirt was unaware of Kovalev's doping test. Felt camp was going well. I saw that headline. I had no real deep thoughts on it. Thought it was a funny headline. But goddamn, I'm so happy in a way that we don't have to deal with Kovalev right now. Even though like that fight was a decent fight. Because Melikuziev was going to, feast on the old, as all young lions do in this sport.
Which is what I wanted to see.
Yeah, you wanted to see that, but there's a little bit of like comeuppance in a way that this is, And the best part is he can still fight Melikuziev in like a year and a half or whenever he gets off suspension, or it's boxing, so 6 months, and not be knocked out. So we get that comeuppance as well. So it's kind of like a twofer here we can get, in my opinion. Because it's not like he's never going to fight again. He's definitely going to fight again and get knocked out, because I think Kovalev's over the hill and a piece of shit.
Class act. Yeah.
Are you shocked that he's on steroids?
No. I'm not shocked that anyone's on steroids. Right? I'm really not. Like, you could give me any name, and it's not going to shock me.
Yeah, everyone is on steroids.
The whole UFC, but boxing too. Everyone.
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC. Everybody.
Accept it, guys. It's okay. But yeah, goddamn. Shout out to fucking.
Was he including himself in that? I mean, everyone.
No, he. What was that? What was the context of that exactly?
Who's that? Nate Diaz?
Yeah, he smokes weed. He doesn't do steroids.
You can't do both as one or the other.
No, but I mean, if you look at them, like there's some guys you can just go, yeah, they're not athletic enough. They're clearly not doing steroids.
He's doing it. He's not doing it right.
If he is, like, who gives a shit, right? Everyone's doing steroids. I forget what the context of that was because somebody had popped, obviously, and that's why it was brought up. I forget. I think it was either John Jones or someone. Digressing though. What's the next topic? Oh, let's talk about the lightweight division and get through whatever is happening here. Because it looks like the Lopez-Kambosos fight is off due to COVID. Gary, did you just do yeah? Oh my god.
Do you really want to see him beat up on Kambosos? I mean, is that something you want to see?
Okay, Gary, if somehow we get like Lopez, like Haney, or Lopez Davis, or Lopez Garcia, awesome. But like Bob Arum is like Haney doesn't mean much. Yeah, so basically that.
Let's just I know he don't want to do it, but let's just get the rematch out of the way. Let Hector fight Devin Haney, let Ryan Garcia fight Tank, and let's get some clarity in the division.
But see, I don't know what Tank's doing. If
Tank doesn't know what Tank's doing.
There's a part of me that think Tank is not really involved in this equation, right? That he's going back down to 130 and facing like Abner Mares. Right? Like part of me is thinking that, right? Because it's just, why not? That's par for the course. So in my head, I'm excluding Tank from this discussion at this point in time. So we have Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. Kambosos is out of the picture now. Kanehara. My thing is that if Teofimo Lopez had the star power of Tank Davis, we would just get Ryan Garcia versus Teofimo Lopez. And like you said, Haney versus Kanehara or something like that. Or Haney versus Fortuna, right? But I don't think Oscar is going to risk Ryan Garcia on a Teofimo Lopez because Teofimo Lopez is not Gervonta Davis. And I don't know if I really need to explain that for the listeners, but like one of them's a star and one of them isn't. One of them just did 200,000 plus pay-per-view buys, and one of them can't do that. So I don't see Oscar making the Ryan Garcia Teofimo Lopez fight like he would make Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis. So what does Lopez do now? I don't think he can get Ryan Garcia. I think the Haney fight, for whatever reason, it's not happening. I don't know why. I want to blame Arum because that just seems natural to me. But I don't know why. But again, that fight seems like it's just not materializing. That fight's not progressing in any way. They don't want to negotiate for whatever reason. So I don't know what's left for Lopez. So back to like, am I like bummed out we're not getting Kambosos? Potentially, because if we don't get Kambosos, I'm not inclined to think we automatically get Lopez versus these other guys. Gary, your thoughts?
I'm glad it's not Kambosos because that's one-way traffic. That's destruction. Kambosos is a terrible fighter, right? Like who did he just beat? Who did Kambosos just beat?
Lee Selby.
Lee Selby.
Who's not a terrible fighter.
He's not a terrible fighter.
Welsh Mayweather.
Welsh Mayweather. It was okay. Like the fight itself was pretty bad, but like it's a solid win. Like Kambosos obviously isn't a bum, but he obviously has absolutely nothing for Teofimo Lopez. So I'm glad that fight's not getting made. There are good fights to be made, right? Where do they go? Teofimo Lopez seems not to like Loma, and he doesn't want to give him a rematch because he personally doesn't like him. If that's the case, and he doesn't fight him, it makes it tough because there are so many. Michelle Rivera is a name, and we don't even mention that guy's so good. And that's a PPC guy.
We're going to come on later on the show, though. Don't worry.
I would say try to get look. I can't see them putting Ryan Garcia in with Teofimo Lopez for the reasons Matt just said, and he's not ready for him, right? I would say let's put him in. Let's make it. Hector Tanahara is a promotional free agent at the moment, technically, right? He had a contract in place with Golden Boy. He signed with Golden Boy. He wanted to re-sign with Golden Boy. And they had the contract in line for him to resign it. Things came up, COVID came up, and then they lost Canelo, and they can't give him the things that they promised. So Rick Morangan is talking to all the majors. He obviously has a relationship with Top Rank through Gabe Flores and Ramirez. Mm-hmm. I think that's a makeable fight. I think that's a good fight that they can make, a Tanahara fight with Teofimo Lopez. Or Teofimo Lopez can fight Haney, right? Which is the fight that they really want, which is the fight that Eddie said he could have at any time. And now it doesn't seem to be so available because, well, Haney's a lot better than Tanahara's a lot better than Haney. I think Tanahara is kind of the key here in this equation. Where he signs and where he goes is gonna. He likes Golden Boy, right? I don't understand why we didn't really deliver for him. They didn't get him a Garcia fight, right? But he does. They signed him as a kid, right out of the amateurs, like 17, 18 years old. So okay, but what do I think it's gonna happen? I don't know, right? Like I thought the Kambosos fight was a logical fight, right? Even though I didn't want to see it, I thought it was a logical fight. I said, well, Top Rank has Kambosos. They're going to make this fight, and it's going to be destruction. Do you think we get a rematch now? Because, I mean, it's too easy to make, and it's a big money fight.
You mean the Loma rematch, right?
The Loma rematch with Lopez. Do you think we get that because it's too easy to make, and it's still relatively a big money fight?
Before I address that question, I just want to point out how I, at no point in setting up this topic, listeners, mentioned the name Hector Tanahara. And within 5 minutes, Gary made him the key to this division and how it gets sort of maneuvered in the machinations of it this year. I love it, Gary. I love your fanboyism. It is truly, it brings me so much entertainment. I hope you know that. I'm not making fun of it. I truly get entertained by it. It's amazing. I am curious about where Tanahara signs with, to be honest, to actually address your Tanahara point.
If Golden Boy can offer him what they offered him last week, or I mean before Canelo, they'll sign tomorrow. But something seems to be holding it up now, which, I mean,
you have a lot more money to spend now. If you're Golden Boy, why would it be an issue?
Because maybe. I'm not going to speculate on that. Things came up. Fights dropped off. Right? They couldn't make things that they wanted to make, and the offer that was there, verbally, is no longer there. From
unnamed sources in the camp.
No, not in the camp. His manager told me that. I mean,
Gary, we just want to use the word sources.
Sources.
I think that. Again, like I was about to say, I think where Tanahara signs with will lead him to a big fight, but that big fight for him may not be a Haney or a Teofimo Lopez. It might be a Fortuna and guys of that ilk, or Ricky Burns, guys that are more of the veteran status that will get him.
They had a fight with Fortuna signed, and then that fell through with all of everything that happened.
That's COVID.
Haney is the fight that needs to be made, right? Like, if Eddie is as confident as he says in Haney, then make a Tanahara fight. You're willing to make it last year or 2019. Why wouldn't you be willing to make it now? Unless something's changed. What's changed, Eddie?
They are trying to get the Ryan Garcia fight.
I understand. I understand. Okay, so a Haney Teofimo Lopez fight isn't going to get made for network reasons and because they both want an obscene amount of money that would stop the fight from being made. I don't think they don't fight for different networks, but the amount of money they would demand, Haney and Garcia would demand to fight each other. Don't you think that'll stop the fight from being made, at least immediately?
No, because if you're DAZN, I think you're looking at Ryan Garcia as like maybe that's our like long-term cash cow because he's with the Gen Z generation. Like he is tapped into social media in ways that all of these fighters aren't. And we are in essence a social media platform if you really think about it. So yeah, I think that they will throw a lot of money at that fight. Plus, I think Haney is a underrated star as well in that mix. Like I've talked about this before, he's a much bigger star than Teofimo Lopez is. So yeah, I think that they would absolutely throw money at that fight. And plus, I don't think they really even need to because I think both guys are under contract right now. So like, it's not like they will, they're probably just gonna get their max in their contract, right?
Fight each other, I guess. Yeah,
you get more than their max because most fights have a max or minimum, and they can work in between that for most fights. I think they just work up until the max, and then that's kind of what they get for this fight.
I think that fight will happen. I just thought it would happen later in the year.
And it still can happen later in the year. Like we know that Haney's also been looking for Fortuna as well because I think Fortuna is like that key veteran that all these young guys want to fight, and it's smart because I think Fortuna presents enough issues where you should learn, but you should also win. So if he fights Fortuna instead of Tanahara, I don't blame him. Speaking of Haney, because I think Haney still needs some of that experience as well. All these guys need that experience, so I don't blame him for that. If he goes and fights a Jason Velez type instead of Tanahara, I think you can have issues, Gary.
What is Jason Velez's name? Off topic, just link to someone else, like as a replacement.
Yes, we're gonna talk about him later on too. That's why he's on my mind as well.
That's that name. That's the Kiko Martinez of this division. It's like, my opponent, Kiko Martinez is his name.
Yes, Kiko Martinez, man, that was a great era. When I say great, it wasn't. What else? Lazy Lefty in the chat, aka Ben Media, saying Haney has a mandatory. The only way to get him out is to fight Tio. Tanahara can't fight Haney.
Things are done. Things are done. Things are done.
I cannot wait. Oh, wait. Next topic. Yes. I was about to say I cannot wait to get to this Thurman topic. And next topic is fucking Thurman. Yes. By the way, I have not heard the rant at all.
We'll play it.
Well, hold on. Let me set it up.
All
Gary.
right.
Okay, set up the thing I haven't heard yet. Apparently, Thurman had this big rant on Bob Arum, and I purposely did not listen to it because I wanted today for the show and have like my, immediate live reaction to whatever this rant was because I heard it was good. Gary, have you heard it?
I have.
Was it good? Did you enjoy it?
It's good, Keith Thurman. It's good, Keith Thurman.
And as a fellow connoisseur of ranting and pettiness as myself, does it get high marks?
It's good. It's good. It's a good, really, really, really good rant. Like, it's good. It seems like personal, which is always good for a rant.
And plus, when Keith Thurman gets mad, he always gets personal. And obviously, everyone go subscribe to UK Rob Boxing. Okay, go do that. Go support. Let's play it. Rob with his UK music.
Fuck Bob Arum. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Fuck Bob Arum. All right? Why you talking shit, Bob? Keep your goddamn mouth shut. Keep your goddamn mouth shut, Bob. You want a cheap-ass fight? Psst, I'll punch you in your shit for free. How about that? That's the cheap-ass shit you're going to get out of me. I'll give you a free lick, boy. Look, man. I'm going to snap on Bob real quick.
You have?
Bob, you a piece of shit. One of the worst fucking promoters in the game. Okay? All of your great fighters left your ass. Oscar De La Hoya left your ass. Floyd Mayweather left your ass. Manny Pacquiao left your ass. Am I missing anybody? Shoot. Crawford, he about to leave your ass. He about to leave your ass. Bob, you know what's up. You know I never asked for anything. It ain't my fault. You can't afford a great fight, okay? You cheap as shit. You can barely pay your own fighters good money, okay? That ain't my fault. You got ESPN backing you. You got Terrence Crawford, one of the most talented welterweights in the welterweight division, and you can't get him paid. You can't make him famous enough. You got Max Kellerman sipping on all the Crawford juice, and I love Crawford too. He's a great fighter since the amateurs. I love that boy. I love all my peers because we the real ones. We the real ones. Bob, what did $2 million buy you your last fight? A bullshit ass fight. Come on now. Come on now, Bob. Okay? I speak that realness. Thurman ain't no punk. All right? You don't knock me in the ropes, watch me curl up like a dog, fight's over. When was Thurman ever fight over? All right? Knocked down, body shot, fought with injuries, hurt hands, hurt elbows. Me and Sean Porter were Showtime's fight of the year. Me and Danny Garcia was a great fight. I fought him with bone spurs. Me and Pacquiao was a very exciting fight. I fought him almost one-handed. Okay? And now you mad because the PBC opponents, you can't afford a PBC fighter. You can't afford us, Bob. I'm sorry. All right? You cheap. You want fucking discounts. I know it's hard out here in the streets. We all know it. You know what I'm saying? But you ain't going to get me on no discount. You ain't going to pay no full price, but you ain't getting no discount. Look, Bob, stop talking shit. All right? Stop talking shit. You're a horrible fucking promoter. You got all this talent. You can't do shit with it. All right? PBC, we make money together, baby. We do it all together. All right? You wouldn't have a dime in the bank account if it wasn't for all the Mexicans and Africans and Filipinos and all the other ethnicities that you've ever worked with throughout your whole career. All right? And then you don't want to pay people? There's a world-class boxing. You can't afford a world-class fight? You got ESPN backing you? They don't got no money, Bob? They don't got no money? Man, look. Stop talking shit. All right? Ain't going to be no fight. You can't afford it. All right? You offered Sean Porter $1 million. What's $1 million after taxes? $600,000? Man, get the fuck out of our face, Bob. Get the fuck out of our faces. All right? You can barely help Terrence Crawford make any real money. He's one of the best fighters you've had for years. Years. You don't make no money. Man. Look, man. I don't need no $10 million. But I need some respect. And the respect come in the check. All right? The respect come in the check. Ain't my fault that I'm an opponent and I'm worth more money than your champion, your undefeated welterweight champion. That ain't my fault. That's your fault, Bob. That's your fault, Bob. That's evidence of you doing a shitty ass job, Bob. Okay? Man, stop talking shit, Bob. All right? Terrence Crawford wanted to fight me last year. Okay? Terrence Crawford wants to fight Sean Porter. Terrence Crawford wants to fight Keith Thurman. Terrence Crawford wants a great fight. Your fucking promoter can't afford it, Terrence. All right? He can't put a good show for you. There's no good show. You know? That's right, man. Fuck Bob.
Oh my God. That was amazing.
Told you. It's good. And was anything that he said out of bounds or wrong?
The Danny Garcia fight was good.
Okay, fine. All right.
That's the only thing. That's it.
Was anything he said about Arum? Was anything he said about Bob Arum wrong?
No.
I was all on the money. It's your fault, Bob. It's your fault. It's your fault. He's not a big enough star because it's your fault. You got ESPN. You got enough money to make a real fight. What's wrong with you? It's your fault. He's 100% right on everything. About Arum. I get the Danny Garcia fight was not great.
And that was like one something. It's fine. But like the 5 minutes of that was just pure glory. Oh my God. Just mainline that right now. That was just just wonderful. It was just amazing. I don't even know how to like really respond to that video because like anything I would say, just like repeating what Keith Thurman says. I mean, one, if the $1 million offer to Sean Porter is true, that is so disrespectful. I can't even imagine getting that offer if you're Sean Porter. Like, just think about like Jesse fucking Vargas is making $1.3 million on
that's Eddie's problem. That ain't my problem.
on undercards. Like we have the market standard being set all across the board, and 1 million is not it for a guy of Sean Porter's ability, star power, credentials, and the like. So if that's true, that is insanity. If that was the case,
1 million is telling Sean Porter, I don't want to negotiate with you. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine like 2 million is a lot.
The minimum, right? Like you go low, I go high. We meet in the middle. Like that's it. 1 million means I don't want to negotiate. Like if Sean Porter said, like the claim that Keith Thurman said, I want $10 million. Okay, I mean, I'll give you 2, right? And then like you know what I'm saying. 10 means you don't want to negotiate. 1 also means I don't want to negotiate with you.
If you look on most of those big welterweight fights that Keith Thurman talked about, they got around 2 million for their disclosed purse. Now, that's just their disclosed purse, but that's kind of what I imagine a lot of the first offers are for these welterweights are around what their disclosed purse ends up being. Because obviously you have the back end money and all that stuff, but tabling that. So that was just interesting to me. Secondly, when Thurman talks about the inability of Arum to properly negotiate with these PBC welterweights because of his lack of promoting Crawford, I mean, that's right on the fucking money. I mean, I've been stating that fucking forever, that Arum and Crawford come into these negotiations acting like they've done all this stuff, and they haven't. And I don't mean that when I say that, I don't mean like Crawford hasn't fought opponents, hasn't accomplished things. I'm talking about as a star, because this is still prize fighting at the end of the day, people. Unfortunately, it's not, stick and ball sports where you have rankings and schedules predetermined at the very beginning of the season. Okay, this is fucking prize fighting. Okay, it's different. And Crawford and Arum have not done the prerequisites to really negotiate at a 50-50 split with Earl Spence. And I can even push that and say they can't come in and act like they're the A side with people like Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and potentially Sean Porter as well. They can't come in as the A side. And they act like they do. And they can't. And I get called out as a PBC fan, but that's just the fucking business.
Keith Thurman did one pay-per-view. How many buys did it do? 600,000, 500,000?
Yeah, about.
Crawford's done 2. How many pay-per-view buys has done combined?
200,000.
Yeah, like guys, I think it's less. I think it might be 200,000, 150, maybe.
And then we're gonna get Crawford fans come in and say, well, Thurman fought Pacquiao.
Okay, great, awesome, name value. Now he's a star, right? Like guys,
no, that's not the true rebuttal to that. It's when Crawford fought his first pay-per-view, who did he want to fight? It was Pacquiao, who was his stablemate. What did Arum do? Not make the fight.
Pacquiao's wife said he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, but she allowed Keith Thurman. Why? Because that one was a money fight.
That was after. He fought after Pacquiao fought,
it was
I think.
Still money. Crawford did not present money. Why? Because Bobby Arum didn't build him up as a lightweight superstar. Look at what's happening to Teofimo Lopez, guys. Like, think about it. That dude had a life-changing, legacy-defining, Hall of Fame fucking win. Became an undisputed champion within like 15 fucking fights. How many people know his name?
Outside of our circle.
Yeah. That guy is on ESPN. He's been on ESPN his whole career. How many people know his name? Nobody. Nobody.
It's Bob's on too many edibles. He's too mellow. He's too laid back.
Bob is a shitty ass promoter. He is on America's fucking sports network, and he can't build these guys into stars. And I mean, like superstars. Like that's not even what I'm asking here, because not everyone is a superstar.
Yeah, it's not saying Mayweather, but make him a star.
Make him a fucking star, and they don't.
Keith Thurman's a bigger draw than Terrence Crawford. That should not be, especially when Crawford is your guy. Like that's it. That's the best guy you have. Make him a star.
And my third point and a slight rebuttal to this is the idea of like Crawford not making any money under Arum. Crawford has had really good paychecks under Top Rank. Like, he gets like 3 to 4 million guarantees, sometimes 5 million guarantees. Like he's had some massive disclosed purses that are sometimes bigger than these PBC welterweights. But there's asterisks there because we know from industry sources, from people inside, that those PBC fighters get so much more in the back end and through just long-term business dealings and contracts made that they make more at the end of the day.
Keith Thurman said, he said, like, I'm not speaking for anyone besides him. He says the money on the back end can be as big as the money disclosed, right? So it's like if it's $2 million up front, it could be $2 million in the back too. For someone like Keith Thurman, now small fighters, less known fighters, probably not. Yeah. And he wasn't speaking for anyone but himself.
Yeah. And at the same time, like because of his relationship with Al Heyman and what they do, they buy up a ton of property. All the PBC top fighters buy property, and Al Heyman helps them do that. He gets some accountants, all that stuff. He makes sure they are economically solvent for a long time, regardless of fucking prize fighting. Do you see Bob Arum ever do that? Ever actually invest in his fighters in that way?
Bob's the old school. Like, I mean, he's the thoroughbreds. When they're done, you get rid of them.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, like I've been saying, like Keith Thurman, they knocked out of the park. It's a lot of good shit. And also, I will. This is my one hot take, actually, from this all. I don't like the shaved head Thurman. I miss the ponytail.
You missed the washed up R&B singer look,
dude. I miss like the shitty reggae singer look. I miss that so much, man. That was such a great fucking look. It was. Like
I don't like competition for having the best hair. So that's my game. So the less competition, the better. I have great hair.
He had an iconic ponytail, man. You can't take that shit off. That'd be like Costa Zoo, like shaving the fucking rat tail. You can't fucking do that. That's sacrilegious. You just can't.
Fernando Vargas got rid of the devil hair thing.
That pissed me off.
I love Fernando Vargas as a kid. I mean, just I get he lost all of his big fights, or most of them. That guy was so much fun to watch.
And he only lost all of his big fights because he had like them all when he was like 23.
Yeah, he retired when he was like 28, 29.
Yeah, isn't his son fighting like relatively soon?
I can't. That sounds right.
I need to look that up because that's man. I can't wait to see all these sons and daughters of these like the 90s and early 2000s legends, because they're all coming in now. Like Ricky Hatton's son, Fernando Vargas' son. Like we're seeing all that happen. Love it. Matthew D'Souza in the chat saying, Matt, after COVID, the ponytail is coming back. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Thank God.
That's going to take a while to grow. Just as someone who's grown their hair out, it doesn't happen overnight.
Someone in the chat saying reggae look is dreadlocks, not ponytails. Dude, that first up is very stereotypical. And secondly, you do not know enough people that are in the reggae scene. As somebody that has grown up in Long Beach and in the ska punk reggae scene, that Keith Thurman's hair is like 90% of the skateboarders that are also in the reggae scene. They're also in the punk scene. They're also in the ska scene. Absolutely. Absolutely. Come on. That's surfer hair too. 100%. Digressing though, moving on. Gary mentioned, is it Michael or Michelle Rivera?
It's Michelle. It's French,
Michelle
right?
Rivera.
Although I don't understand.
I always assume it is when it doesn't have the A.
It's Michelle. It's Michelle, like that.
Michelle Rivera is in advanced talks to face none only the Adrian fucking Broner. Because I think Pedro Campos, either like COVID or visa or something happened. So this is in advanced talks. Gary, thoughts on this fight actually happening?
It's too damn. Like, there's still money to be made, and no one roll their eyes at me. There's still money to be made in Broner. If he fought Rivera would school him, effectively ending the Broner comeback. That is guys, if you haven't seen Rivera, he's so good. He's Hector Tanahara good. Like, he's that good.
Don't discredit Rivera like that.
I'm telling you right now, Rivera, I don't know if he stops because Broner is tough, right? Like, Porter didn't stop him.
He didn't stop him.
Right?
No, yeah,
but he beats him senselessly. Like, 120 to 108 kind of fight. Like, guys, Rivera is good. And this would effectively end the Broner comeback, so they won't make this fight. It's too big of a fight for his comeback fight. Like, they want to drag this out and make some money off of Broner. This would effectively end that.
Yeah. But maybe they want Rivera to get the Broner rub, and that's what this is. Yeah. I lean more towards you, Gary, though I really want this fight. It would be so much fun.
Because Rivera would destroy him.
It would be just hilarious to watch. And I do like Rivera. I think he's a great prospect. And to your point of the Hector Tanahara comparison, it's only a good comparison when you think about Rivera being like underrated. Because Rivera doesn't get talked about with other prospects like he should. Like Tanahara doesn't get talked about with other prospects like he should. But Rivera, I think, to me, shows a far more polished level at this point in his career than a Tanahara. Like, Rivera can, I think, fight in that top 5 at 135 and potentially win. Like, I wouldn't pick him to beat Ryan Garcia, Haney, Gervonta Davis, or Teofimo Lopez, but he could. That's not out of the question because he does look so polished. We just haven't seen him fight anyone at that caliber. Tanahara, I think, still needs some polishing. He still needs some fine-tuning.
Now I've thought of something else, right? What if their play is Rivera? Like, if they have Rivera get that Broner rub, schools him, looks phenomenal doing it. Now they have a possible pay-per-view with Rivera and Tank, and they have another player in that 135-pound division with all those names. Maybe it will happen. Like, I was thinking, like, that would destroy Broner, but maybe, okay, like, Broner is erratic anyway, so let's scratch him. Let's build Rivera into a star. Is that a possibility?
It's possible because, like you said, 135 is the hot division right now, it seems, with a lot of future stars. You want to get more names in the mix if you're a promoter so you can make more money off of all those stars. Even though, like, Michelle Rivera isn't going to be a Ryan Garcia level star, you want someone at least in the mix, so to speak, in order to fight them to get the money off of them, in a sense, generate that revenue. So absolutely. Yeah, I think it's possible. Again, if Broner and his personal camp, let's call it, if they decide they don't want to take it, I get it though.
lose badly.
Yeah, it honestly just doesn't make a lot of sense for Broner. It makes a ton of sense if you're Rivera, just like any prospect facing Adrian Broner makes sense for that prospect. But for Broner, it doesn't make a lot of sense right now. Like, you're trying to build him up towards another big fight with one of the top welterweights, I'm assuming. That, like, even though this fight is either going to be at 140 or 135, I don't know what division this fight's going to be at.
Probably ain't making 135, so my guess is they're going to bring Rivera up to 140 for the fight. And then
that's my guess as well. But, like, Broner, I don't think you stay at, like, 140 or 130 or 140, being honest. Like, you want him back up at 147 fighting those top guys.
He can get beat up by one of them again.
Yeah. Yep. You want to make a Danny Garcia, Adrian Broner pay-per-view. You know, like, that's the play long term, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Watching him get beat up over and over again.
And it's a great.
People like to watch Broner get beat up.
It's entertainment to me. Absolutely. Moving on.
My favorite was the Pacquiao fight. It was like after the 11th round. He had a pretty good round, right? And he goes to his corner. Did I win that round? I won that round, right? It's like, it doesn't really matter at this point, right? Like, I don't know what they're telling you in the corner. Really, if you won a close round in the 11th, really
Adrian Broner, take out like all the out of the ring antics or criminality or just debauchery from Adrian Broner. Just purely boxing. God, he is entertaining and hilarious.
Yeah.
He is so good for the sport. He just clearly doesn't care about it at all. Moving on, Josh Warrington may vacate his IBF belt and fight Gary Russell Jr. after a tune-up in February. But Ray Vargas is moving up to featherweight, and it's been named the challenger to Gary Russell Jr. So, Gary, your thoughts on Gary Russell Jr., Ray Vargas, and Josh Warrington, and what happens amongst those three? Like, what do we get out of that?
Well, Gary Russell Jr. is really, really good.
We think
he's done it enough now. We know that he's really good. He just doesn't. Is he still good? I guess because he doesn't fight. Ray Vargas is no good.
Quickly, if Joseph Diaz fought Gary Russell Jr. again, who do you pick?
If who fought?
Joseph Diaz fought again.
I still Russell is so skilled and power. Like he's so good. Russell is so good. Although I'd like to see it again. I think Jojo Diaz had a once in a lifetime. He had his mama mentality. He was not going to be denied that night. I think Tevin Farmer beat him if they fight him again. Like I don't think Jojo Diaz is that good. I think he had an incredible performance and he had the best fight of his life. I don't think he can replicate that performance. Although that night he was gold. He was not going to be denied that fight. He was amazing that night. But we've seen enough of Jojo Diaz. Like, okay, he's good. I don't know he's that good.
I want to remind everyone that Jonah fucking Carroll put hands on Tevin Farmer.
Oh, that's true. I scored that fight for Carroll too.
Jonah fucking.
I gave Carroll the first 5 rounds of that fight. Like that was a bad performance with my Tevin.
Or Tevin just isn't that good.
Yeah, maybe. Like we fell in love with the story. Like he had 7 losses or whatever it was early in his career. He came back won a world title. Like maybe he's a little bit overrated. And that's possible.
I mean, who did he beat?
Jonah Carroll. Tennyson?
Yes, he did.
Who did he win his title from? Was the Australian guy, Billy Dibb?
Was it Dibb?
I think so.
No.
Who did he win his title? It was the Australian guy. He was in Australia. I remember the fight was like 2:00 in the morning.
I think it is Dibb. Yeah. Moving on. Gary Russell Jr. and Ray Vargas and Josh Warrington. What do you think is going to happen here? Sorry, I know I veered you off course there.
It's tough because Russell will just not fight, which I respect. Like, okay, this is a tough business. I'm not taking stupid fights, and Ray Vargas is a stupid fight, right? Warrington's a good.
It's not a stupid fight.
Vargas sucks, bro.
Stop it.
I've never thought Vargas was good. I kind of look at Vargas the way you look at Valdez.
I mean, that's harsh.
I don't think.
I think Vargas isn't like the greatest thing since sliced bread, of course, but he's not a bad fighter. Like he's probably instantly a top 10 fighter at featherweight.
I gotta go through the names.
I'll pull it up. You talk.
The Warrington fight's really good. I think Gary Russell's too skilled. He wins that fight and he overcomes Warrington's volume, and that's a really good fight. But if that, you gotta be able to pay Vargas enough step aside money, right? I don't know. I mean, is there really that much demand outside of like people like us for a Warrington Russell fight? Enough where they would pay him step aside money? I don't know. You're probably gonna get Russell Vargas just because it's easy to be made, and looks like it's. He's the mandatory challenger, so you're probably going to get that, and then Russell takes another year out of the ring. I don't know what happens.
You don't think just like they both fight their mandatories, Drew Shan or for Warrington and Ray Vargas?
So that probably happens. But the fight I really want is Warrington versus Russell. Although Warrington versus Drew Shan is still a fine fight.
By the way, on BoxRec, Ray Vargas is already number 4 in the division. I love it. BoxRec, Josh Warrington, Emmanuel Navarrete, Gary Russell Jr., Ray Vargas, Kid Galahad, Shushan, Isaac Dogbe, Jesse Medellano, Joet Gonzalez, James Dickens. That's the top 10 for BoxRec.
Yeah, I was furious when I found out that Jazza Dickens' name wasn't actually Jazza.
Yeah, no, it's sad.
Yeah.
Other names that probably should be in that mix is like King Tug.
Yeah, the division's not the best.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Collin.
He went down to 122 though.
That's right. That's right.
That guy's terrible too.
He's so bad. So bad. Ray Vargas beats him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, come on, Ray Vargas is in the top 10.
I mean, yeah, you're right. That's why I had to go through the names. He's in the top 10 because the division's not that good.
And he beats Joey Gonzalez.
No, I don't mean Joey Gonzalez. Joey Gonzalez boxes him.
Out. Stop it. Stop it.
Vargas is not good.
But to say that Joey Gonzalez can outbox anyone right now is just laughable.
Joey Gonzalez just beat who? Who was Joey Gonzalez?
It was Mariaga, right?
Mariaga.
You're not
Vargas is better than Mariaga.
Yeah, I mean, one's a champion.
Vargas isn't good. Like, he's not good. What do you like about him? He's a big guy who fights like a little guy.
Dude, he has good wins. He beat what was it? Gavin McDonald. What, it wasn't Jamie McDonald. It was Gavin McDonald. He beat Oscar Negrete. He beat was it Ron Rios? Like he beat
Negrete. You're right. He beat Negrete. That's a good win. I mean, Negrete's fighting out of his weight class at that point, but it's a good win.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it's a good win.
No, it is. It is. I've been consistent on it.
Hold on, Negrete beat your boy.
No, he never beat him.
Your boy.
He got 2 draws and Franco's got 1 win.
No, he has a win against Josh Franco.
2 draws and a loss.
I read it wrong. That's okay.
Do I? You come to me like with Josh Franco. I've watched almost every single fight of his career intently.
You know what? I'll pull the whole Triple G shit. He arguably beat Josh Franco, so it's okay.
The first one, to be fair, it was a draw and that was fine. Negrete probably won. The second one, Josh won, and the third one was a draw that Josh probably won. But you probably argue that Negrete won the first one.
I'll put it this way. Your thoughts on Emmanuel Navarrete at 126, I think, are vastly different than your thoughts on Ray Vargas at 126. And I think they're roughly the same. Like, think about this. Emmanuel Navarrete, his only win of note is against Isaac Dogboe twice. Right? Like, who else did he beat?
Yeah, his other wins. I mean, he fought so many times and he looked really good, but it was really against nobody's.
I'll look just to double check if he brought.
You know what I think it is?
He did beat Ruben Villa, who was like a decent 126 pounder. That's not a bad opponent. He's a top 15 guy. But again, you have Isaac Dogboe and then Ruben Villa. So Emmanuel Navarrete has. Ray Vargas has a better resume than Emmanuel Navarrete, in my opinion. And they fight roughly the same. They're both long guys that fight like swarmers and volume fighters.
You know what I think it is? I think when Vargas was with Golden Boy for all those years and they were on HBO, and Max Kellerman used to tell me that like he was the best 122 pounder and he was incredible. And I was like, are we looking at the same guy? Right? Like they had such a bias towards this guy on HBO. I think that's why I dislike him so much. Was just because like I didn't get.
Well, to be fair, at that time, he might have been the best 122 pounder in the world. I mean, who else was there? Like, it was Isaac Dogboe was probably his.
Rigo?
No.
Rigo was at 126 at that time?
Rigo at that point had, I think, already moved up.
Maybe.
And fought Donaire, obviously, before the Ray Vargas reign. And then in between in the middle of the Ray Vargas reign, obviously, he fought Loma at 130. And then he dropped back down to 118. So, like, I don't know if like Rigo is like the guy because he's been all over the place.
Chucky Flores. I don't know. Maybe am I being? You guys, let me know in the chat. Am I being too hard there on Ray Vargas? Is he better than I'm giving him credit for? Because I kind of look at him through the same lens that Matt looks at Valdez through.
Yo, all of you guys mentioning like people outside the weight class for Gary Russell Jr. to fight. Gary Russell Jr. versus Crawford. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Canelo.
Who did he want to fight again? Who did Gary Russell want to fight at 130?
Haney. He wanted to fight Haney.
Was it Haney?
He wanted to fight Haney. And then, like, that's when he fought Gamboa because that fight fell through.
Oh, my God. That's so stupid. So fucking stupid.
Haney. I mean, his skills pay the bills. I get Haney's way bigger, but look at the skill set.
No, he hasn't beat Haney.
probably too much of a size advantage.
Way too big. Way too big.
Because Haney's a big 35-pounder. He's a big lightweight.
Absolutely. Like, I think even some guys at 135 are too big for Gary Russell. Like, Miguel Burchell's too big. Jamal Herring's probably too big.
Russell's a career 126 pound. He probably could have fought lower early in his career, but there's not much money lower than 126, so you fight at 126.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he could even lose to like Josh Warrington. Like, that's not out of the question.
Well, see, the thing there is Warrington would have to just win on volume, right? And Russell could outbox him and he could knock him out. Warrington can't knock Russell out, right? We agree on that?
I don't think either one can knock out each other.
Russell's got good pop.
He has all right pop.
He doesn't put them together and go for knockouts, but like he's got good pop.
He has all right pop. I mean, for his like reign, right? We have like Johnny Gonzalez, who he knocked out, Patrick Hyland, who he knocked out, Oscar Escudon, who he knocked out. Oscar Escudon's a good knockout win. Like that's respect right there.
Figueroa knocked him out.
Yeah. Awesome.
I know it is awesome.
It is.
True words could not have been spoken.
I've always said that win for Brandon Figueroa was a very good win. And then he knocked out Kiko Martinez. Like it's like
everyone knocked out Kiko Martinez. Kiko Martinez had a world title at one point, right?
Did he? I don't know.
I want to say he did, which is why everybody fights him because he's former world champ.
But he did knock out Joseph Diaz, and he did knock out King Tug.
Okay, like
I think Josh
at a world class level, you're not going to knock everyone out.
I think Josh Warrington's durability is at least on par with Joseph Diaz and King Tug.
If I had to pick, I would say my bet would be Russell by UD.
And
right?
I think that's a completely fair prediction to have. But knockout, no, I don't see a knockout at all. Maybe they can hurt each other, but as we've seen with Warrington, he can hurt a lot of people. He hurt Carl Frampton a shit ton. He didn't knock him out. You know?
I say that Warrington's the most feather-faced guy in the sport. But you're right. He's got tons. He hurt Frampton, who is a solid guy, right?
Yes, he hurts people. He just doesn't hurt them. You know, and like you said, you can't knock them all out. You know, and I just think that this is one of those fights that goes all 12 rounds, and one of those where what did you like the most? Do you like the volume and combinations of Warrington, or do you like the counter shots from Gary Russell Jr.? That's what this fight's going to boil down to. And I cannot wait to see the debates in the boxing Twitter sphere and in our live chat. It's going to be great.
Rob already scored it for Warrington.
Absolutely. Of course. Of course. And I think like we get like a Ray Vargas versus like King Tug fight, to be honest. That would make a lot of sense to me. And it would be a good fight. Both guys are like volume punchers. Moving on to the next topic, mentioning him, Carl Frampton, Jamel Herring. That is set for February 27th in London. Shakur Stevenson, though, has been trying to block it with his mandatory status. Gary, how do you see that going? Do you see this fight going ahead, or do you see Shakur Stevenson being able to block it due to WBO mandatory status?
We'll see. I mean, he's going to have a case, and he's going to have high-paid lawyers. But this fight was kind of, I know it was never official, and it got delayed and stuff, but it was like, it was always there, right? Like, I don't know how he's going to be able to block it because this fight the fight was contracted before COVID, and then it got pushed back and pushed back. I don't know how he's going to do that. I guess, of course, Stevenson's kind of playing the waiting game. He doesn't want to play anymore. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going to have much success with it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, like, he got an argument, I suppose. I just, like, if I'm looking at it as an impartial judge, I was like, but this fight was already signed before you had your mandatory status. So this fight goes first. And then you get to fight the winner. I
think it's going to be easy. It's not going to be a big deal. I think we get Jamel Herring versus Carl Frampton, Shakur Stevenson versus, I don't know, Ito, something like that at 130, right? Like somebody that is durable but not really going to actually challenge you. Like you're not going to get him versus Pachel Valdez winner first or something like that. In my opinion, you're going to get him versus Jamel Herring because that fight.
The timing of that is off too because one is like, yeah. See, he wants to fight. I'm guessing Shakur wants a good fight now, and all the good names are kind of taken right now. So he's trying to force his way into a.
The only name I can think of that's like truly available, and we can maybe talk about it, is Joseph Diaz, because Rakhimov tests positive for COVID. So if you want to quickly try to make a co-promoted fight with Joseph Diaz and Shakur Stevenson, get him a belt, you can do it. That wouldn't be too hard, in my opinion. On top of it, Tevin Farmer is potentially out there as well.
That was the name I was going to push. But, like, doesn't Tevin Farmer push for this fight now? I mean, Tevin Farmer should have this fight because he had a rematch clause. Mm-hmm. He should have gotten this fight. Yes, Rob, Tevin Farmer should have gotten this fight. The difference is that Deontay Wilder has the money and ability to wait out a lawsuit and to wait out arbitration, where Tevin Farmer probably doesn't have the same economic means that Wilder has and kind of needs to fight. That's the difference. But this fight should be Tevin Farmer's. Tevin Farmer gave Diaz a fight. Diaz, there was a rematch clause. Diaz should fight Tevin Farmer, which takes Diaz and Farmer out of the equation for Shakur Stevenson as well. You know, he can fight Joey Gonzalez Part 2.
No. And the wrong division now, thank God.
Yeah, they are in the wrong division.
Obviously, we're going to figure that out when it comes to fruition. Moving on, Tim Tszyu versus Dennis Hogan in talks for a showdown. Obviously, Tim Tszyu having a fantastic win against Jeff Horn, and Dennis Hogan being the whipping post, it seems, of everyone.
His promoter, whoever manages or promotes Hogan, is doing one heck of a job. They keeps getting him fights. They
must hate him, though.
He's getting paid, right? I mean, he's getting paid. He's getting purses for these fights.
That is true. It's not the fight I would have liked for Tim Tszyu next, but oh well, he's still young.
He's they're both from Australia. Like
I get it.
Yeah,
I'm not super against it, but whatever. I do think though Tim Tszyu is like the real deal in a sense. Or, like,
and Hogan didn't arguably beat Munguia. He beat Munguia. I don't care what the judge said. We all saw the fight. That was one of the worst decisions I ever saw. That and the Collazo, Ricky Hatton decision.
There's like 3 people that should have wins against Munguia that don't, but it's beside the point.
The other 2 are debatable, right? Like the other 2 reasonable people could score. Like you talking about the Inoue fight?
Inoue, and even like the Liam Smith fight, you could probably argue.
Reasonable people could score either way. A reasonable person could not have scored that fight from Munguia over Dennis Hogan.
That was bad. Real bad. I mentioned him early in the show. Jason Velez getting the call up to fight Gabriel Flores after Andrew Cancio falls out. Gary, your thoughts on this injury replacement?
It's for a replacement. It's fine. It's a good replacement. I mean, this is not going to show me how good Flores is, but on a late replacement, it's a good replacement.
It's probably the fight that should have been made instead, to be honest. Right? Like Andrew Cancio was, I think, a little bit too much for Gabriel Flores at this point in time. Jason Velez is kind of like the right amount of test, but he's clearly been a guy that loses to a lot of prospects. Right. So you should be able to beat him if you're a good prospect. With Andrew Cancio, that guy is criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. One of the better fighters you can actually fight in that weight class, in my opinion. Anyways, moving on. Just going to round up the topics, get out of here. Carlos Gongora inked a deal with Eddie Hearn. Not too surprised after he beat Ali Akhmedov. And I guess we have to mention at this point in time, Sergio Martinez on a like 3 or 4 fight winning streak right now after he retired in 2014 and is looking to face Ryota Murata for a potentially vacant belt. Or not vacant belt, sorry. He's the champion now. Murata is the WBA super champion. So, yeah, Gary, thoughts on this, I guess, happening maybe?
I thought Sergio Martinez circa 2010, 11, 12 was so good. Like, he was such an athlete. Like, his reflexes were incredible. He had good pop despite not having a good knockout percentage, right? Like, Sergio Martinez was good. Enough of this, right? Like, you wanted to do this little thing. We had these comeback fights. You got a couple wins good. You're not beating top 10 guys like Murata. He's 100 years old. How old is he? He's not winning fights like this.
He's 46 years old.
That's what I'm saying. He's not like if you want to come back and you want to get a win and then you want to stay active. Okay, but he's gonna get hurt in a fight like this.
Yeah, I largely agree. Before we head out, or I should say before you head out potentially, Gary, I do want to talk about the UFC event. So I will probably allow Gary to head out, and then I'll talk about that. And time permitting, meaning if I talk about that shit like under 30 minutes, I might do the political show today. I haven't decided because we actually got through a lot of topics pretty fast there. But Gary, final thoughts, man. Let the people know where to find you.
Tanahara is the centerpiece of the loaded 135-pound division, and where he signs will dictate where that division goes. Find me all from social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing blog. It is January 18th, 2021. Ivan Calderon is still not in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That needs to change. Get Calderon in this next class. Make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
See you, Gary. Have a good one. Guys, let's, I guess, talk about the UFC event that, beat down of the year, I feel like, is applicable to that main event. Max Holloway defeating Calvin Kattar. I got a little bit of flack, at least from Jay and a few other people, both on the show and on social media, about my takes on Saturday night about the Holloway Kattar fight. Let me state this clearly. When I made all of those tweets, I had not watched the fight. I just wanted to piss off people, and it worked. But to actually get to the fight itself, I mean, I don't know really how to dissect it because I feel like it's a very easy fight to analyze. Max Holloway looked fantastic. His ability to cut off the cage, his ability to cut distance, work angles, and to just continually unleash combinations, work the jab, work off the jab. The amount of body work he did against Kattar was just monumental. Like, it was probably his best performance, or at least his most complete performance, you could say. Lazy Lefty, don't worry. We're going to talk about fights on Wednesday. Wednesday, yeah, today's Monday. Yeah, Wednesday we're going to talk about the weekend and fights coming up. Don't worry. Don't worry, Lazy Lefty. It's okay. You think I'm going to ignore Rolly Romero, the great, the GOAT? Never. But digressing back to this. Max Holloway's boxing, I don't know if it's the best in the UFC or in MMA. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I think he has one of the best boxing skill sets that we can see in MMA. That is pretty evident. That's one of the best. So whether you think it's number 1 or number 3 or number 4, number 5, number 10, it doesn't really matter. I don't know if I can say that what we saw from Max Holloway was a drastic improvement. I don't want to state that yet. Like that his head movement was drastically better than before. I think it's too soon to state that yet, but it did seem like his defense vastly improved from his last couple of fights. His mobility overall vastly improved from his last couple of fights. But Calvin Kattar didn't present much. And it's a little bit of that Jeff Neal, Stephen Thompson vibe, where we, and maybe me as well, ranked, respectively, Kattar and Jeff Neal striking high. And they fought for the first time a legit high-level striker, and they were not high-level themselves. And it became quite apparent the leagues between them, right? So I think there's a few question marks about Calvin Kattar and his actual true striking ability at the highest level right now. Because Max Holloway clearly showed he is not ready to face the top-level strikers in the 145-pound division. I mean, I think Volkanovski would have schooled Calvin Kattar as well. So, again, question marks coming out of this fight more than answers for me. Another takeaway, I saw somebody mention in the chat about bad corner as well, and I think that's absolutely true. I mean, by the second round, it felt like this fight should have been stopped. I'll be honest. I went into it watching kind of clips online, especially the last round clip where Max Holloway's talking to the commentators, and he's slipping shots and talking, and so I clearly knew that the fight went the distance before I watched the fight, and it looked like Max Holloway was also bloody, so I expected more of a back and forth. But again, by round two, at the end of round two, it was one-way traffic, and like dominant one-way traffic, where it made me almost not want to watch the fight anymore, because it was that one way. It was that bad, that brutal, that violent, and yeah, bad cornering from Calvin Kattar. It should have been stopped, like, soon. Whether it was the second or third round or fourth round, that fight should have been stopped at some point, and it wasn't. I don't know. Don't know why. But yeah, Max Holloway's striking. It was fantastic, mind blowing. I just don't know if I can state unequivocally that he's improved enough to beat Volkanovski. Even though some people think that he did beat Volkanovski in the rematch, thought the fight was at least inactive enough and close enough that either person could win. I picked Volkanovski, and I thought Volkanovski won that fight. Just want to point out any potential biases there, because I do like Volkanovski a lot. Awesome rugby player. But what is next for Calvin Kattar as well? I think he needs to obviously take a lot of work when it comes to his setup for striking. It seemed like he was not able to set up any shots at all. That's a huge, huge issue. And Holloway, I mean, if he clearly has made the improvements that he's been talking about, I mean, he did no sparring for this camp, which I think is beneficial for older fighters in a sense. And Max Holloway, at least due to his experience, maybe not his actual age in terms of his birth date, but in his experience as a veteran. I've always like when these older fighters, in a sense, take sparring off the table when it comes to fight camps. I think it helps them. We saw that with Robbie Lawler, and I think it's helping Max Holloway. Is it going to be enough to beat Volkanovski? I don't know. I still want him to eventually move up to lightweight, though, and build his body up to a lightweight frame. But that doesn't seem on the table right now. So who knows what's next for the blessed era, right? Let me see in the chat. Anyone making some good points? Yes. Mystic Mac this week. McGregor, Poirier. I don't know. I don't think I'm on Unleashed. I don't think I got the call. Should text Ant. Be like, hey, man, can I get on the show? But if I'm not on that show, I should know by today or tomorrow, then I will do my own show for the UFC pay-per-view coming up, because obviously it's a big one. But guys, that's going to be it for today on this show. Join me over on Trending Now Network. Link is below in the description, and on our YouTube page if you want to find us. Well, that's loud. And we should be back for this show, MCR, on Wednesday to break down the weekend's fights. And probably the same Wednesday, I will break down the UFC event on a separate show as well, or on the same show. Might do like I did here. And like I said, going to come back later today on Trending Now Network. And then still working on the History of Socialism documentary series. Episode 4. Yes, episode 4 tentatively coming out in March. So that might get pushed back. I'll be honest. Yeah, if I had to guess, that's probably going to push back at least a month. This research is just so much. But guys, digressing. Have a great day, great evening, great night. Happy MLK Day for anyone out there. For any of you out there repeating some bullshit about him, please do some research about the Democratic Socialist Martin Luther King Jr. And like I said, have a great day, great evening, great night. And remember, guys, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Peace.